What's going on, guys? It's Marcus here with Discover Ignite, where we discover possibilities and ignite change. And today I actually have this idea, right, about FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Why do we have FOMO? Now, I am guilty of this all the time. You hear about this, especially like in the stock market all the time. Like, there's that one big mover that may move like 20-30% in one day, and you're like, man, I wish I would have got that, right? I wish I would have made the money, the percentage off that, off of my money. But nonetheless, I mean, this is just in general, this thought of FOMO, and how I've been, again, guilty of this in general in life, right? You typically will find that there's always something shiny, right? And you want to go seek and explore. And I've always been about that, right? I always believe that you have to go and be curious about things, but you can't do it at an expense that those critical things, right? I think you should go through your life, audit your life. What are like the three big things in your life that you prioritize as like the top three of your life, right? Like, no matter what happens, these three things are going to get done. And then you really need to focus on that, right? Maybe one of those things is your job. Maybe you need to learn more about your job. Maybe it's day trading, right? Maybe you need to learn more about day trading and spend time for that. But I find that if you spread yourself way too thin and getting that FOMO, like, oh man, if I don't do this new thing, that I'm gonna miss out on this new thing. If I don't do that thing over there, I'm gonna miss out. And there's this new thing, wow, this thing is awesome. And I feel like you do that too much, you do miss out, because you don't get to go deep on any one thing. And that's why it's good to pick three things and just go hard with it. Now, even for myself, right, like after, you may go through an event in your life where you are trying to find yourself. And I've always talked about finding, one thing to just concentrate your energy on. And that's the perfect concept, right? Because ultimately what you want to do is take that one concept and run with it. So much so, maybe after a couple months, I'm talking like 6, 7, 8 months, where it becomes automatic, that it's so ingrained, all those habits that you built up for that one thing, developing that one thing, you have all these habits built up. And so it just becomes automatic, it becomes routine. And then when you get to that point, then you can start focusing your efforts on other things, because that other thing comes so natural. And this is where you can make great progress, right? Because you're not going to essentially create such phenomenal progress in an overnight, right? Or a couple of weeks, or even a couple months. You can make significant changes in your life in a couple months, but ultimately, you still have to focus on the one thing in those couple months and essentially concentrate on that, right? If you have those three things that you picked out, that you audited, you pick one of those three things. What is the top priority of those three things? And focus on that for the next 6 months. Whatever it's got to be, research, learning new things, right? Experiencing new things, whatever the case is, you need to do it for those 6 months before you really concentrate on those other two things. And then after 6 months, once you've essentially established yourself, established that routine, established those habits, then you move on to 2. And you're still continuing 1, but you shift a lot of that focus onto the second one. You start concentrating that to establish this new norm, this new habits, and everything else that is correlated with that second task, right? That second thing, that idea of what really matters to you. And then you can take on a third, right? Now, some people could go 4 or 5, but I myself have always kept it to 3, right? I always try to keep it to my kids, my job, and essentially day trading, right? And just focus on those things as much as possible and be the best that I can at those things. And if you spread yourself too thin, right, initially you do have to put in the time. A lot of these things, a lot of these new skill sets, you do have to put in the time and the effort. And they do say you need that 10,000 hours, right? Nowadays everything is going so fast. This concept of learning to be an expert in something, you essentially need 10,000 hours, right? And that's, many years of experience. But I do believe you can have a solid baseline, a solid understanding of whatever it is in those 6 months. So if you can concentrate on those 6 months of just dedicating yourself to that one thing, establishing those routines and habits, moving to the next thing will be a lot easier, because trying to learn multitude of different things at one time can be extremely overwhelming, and you do run yourself thin. And there's to establish yourself with these new habits and everything is going to be harder, especially when you are spreading yourself thin. And this is where you get to burnout. This is where you get a bunch of these other different things, because you are trying to do too much with a short amount of time, right? As opposed to going deep on something and just taking that and running with that until you establish all those new things. And again, then you realize that, hey, I'm actually doing better in my life, right? This thing is really making a difference. And you'll get to that point where you're like, I'm pretty good right now. I have a solid foundation. I could, I'm not going to completely throw this away. Yes, it's something I want to incorporate in my life, but, it's a little bit easier to do. You notice it becomes easier. And then you move on to the next thing. And for like myself, when I had some major events in my life, I moved on to my first thing to focus, which was my health. And I dedicated 6, 7, 8 months to that thing. And after that time, I had a new lifestyle. I was vegan. I was working out consistently. I was doing all these other different things, and my life changed dramatically. And then that became the new norm for me. And then I moved on to the next thing, where it was being more mindful of what I was doing. So I did a lot of meditation and stuff. I was doing meditation before, but I shifted my focus more towards meditation, right? Initially it was my health, then I focused it to meditation, and then now I'm focusing it towards finances and everything else, right? I'm trying to build that foundation in which essentially everything stands. So to do that, you have to dedicate the time, at least that 6 to 8 months, and get that everything established, and then you can move on from there. So I hope this helps you guys. If it has, remember to hit that like button on the way out. Till next time, I will see you guys later.